All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Brown with OpenSpace, and really happy to be joined by my friends and colleagues here, Enrique Amaya and Josh Wilson of UMC, to do a little fireside chat about OpenSpace and how UMC has been using it. So we're going to get started with just some quick introductions today. And then we'll go ahead and start to hear a little bit about Josh's story in the industry. But Josh, why don't you kick us off with a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, so again, my name is Josh Wilson. I'm a senior project manager for UMC Inc. in the greater Seattle area. Design build contractor. We do a lot of commercial, industrial, pre-construction, manufacturing, just about do it all. Been with them for about 13 years now. Love it.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. And Enrique, if you want to share a little bit about your background and story in the industry as well.
Sure thing. Yeah, my name is Enrique, solutions engineer. I normally introduce myself as the tech guy on the call, but a little bit of background on me. I've been in the imagery and remotely sensed data field for about 8-9 years at this point. Worked in the drone industry a lot with aerial imagery as well. And that's part of the reason as to why I'm here at OpenSpace. It's a great company that focuses a lot on what to do with reality data capture, the imagery behind it, and how to essentially make it a lot more streamlined in capturing any sort of reality data and digitizing the whole real world.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Enrique. And a little bit of my background. My name's Alex Brown. I'm an account manager with OpenSpace. I've been with the company about 4 years now. Enrique and I actually used to work together for the drone company he mentioned called 3D Robotics up in Berkeley, California. We had a product called SiteScan that could do drone aerial analytics of construction sites. And a lot of our customers kept asking us how to fly the drone indoors. So I think that's why both of us really saw the vision of what OpenSpace was able to help complete that process with reality capture, more mapping the interior side of projects. So I work with MEP contractors across the greater Northwest, including Josh and his team over at UMC, who have been great customers of OpenSpace. So Josh, to kind of kick us off, would love to hear just more about your personal story. You know, tell us a little bit about your background and why you decided to get in the construction industry.
Sure. So I have, I guess in my family, going back, we have a lot of engineers. So I guess I have the genetic defect of wanting to be an engineer. So I went to Washington State University, kind of like a lot of my family did, and we all studied mechanical engineering there. So I just kind of had a natural curiosity on how things go together. How to build a better mousetrap, just kind of always taking things apart, trying to figure out how to put them back together again. So that was naturally kind of a good fit for construction. I happened to go to one of those career fairs, saw a UMC, there were University Mechanical Contractors at the time, UMC stand, kind of talked to them. And then over the next year or so, I got the opportunity to come work for UMC as a project engineer. Didn't know a whole lot about construction or what a project engineer even was, but I knew that the variety of things that you're exposed to on a construction site, it's not the same task every single day. Something new every day. There's a new challenge, and with that new challenge, there's a new solution every day. So that kind of drew me to construction in general. And then as I kind of got more and more exposed to the industry and more experience, I just kind of fell more in love with it, kind of went more towards the management side as opposed to working with the tools. But I love the variety, working with an awesome team and kind of working together to build a quality product for the customer. Gives a lot of satisfaction at the end of the day. Yeah, so I'm in the major projects group with UMC, so I do a lot of commercial office space, large high rises, etc. Done a little bit of on the healthcare side, industrial side, but primarily my focus over the last 10 or so years has been on kind of the new construction major projects side of things.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm curious, in your history, do you have any highlights of projects that you worked on in the Seattle region, or it's a little bit like choosing between your children?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to pick a favorite because they all had every project has high points and low points.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest thing that kind of stands out to me for projects is which projects did I learn the most on.
Yeah.
And again, difficult to pick a favorite. But one recent project, it was the tallest project in the city of Bellevue to date. So it was a high-rise office building. Learned a lot about the nuances of working in the city of Bellevue in particular,
Mm-hmm.
but also just I guess there was a fair number, fair number of outside challenges on that project that we'd never experienced before as a
Mm-hmm.
company or as an industry. So that project was taking place during COVID, like just about all projects were recently,
Mm-hmm.
as well as a couple other union strikes that really required some pretty out of the box solutions, and kind of just a different way at looking at things. We had to kind of take a step back and reevaluate how we're approaching not only the
Mm-hmm.
project but construction in general. So the learning experience, that's the one that really kind of sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm curious, based on your experience, whether it's that project or any other in your career, are there any particular stories that highlight some unique challenges that you had, and some of the creative solutions that you were able to tackle it that you feel comfortable with sharing?
Sure. So on a past project, this was a number of years ago. This was the first Amazon-owned office building in the city of
Mm-hmm.
Seattle. So one of the challenges that we face on that project is the large mechanical plant. It was a very complex mechanical plant. It's located one level below grade. And in that mechanical plant, obviously you have all of the large equipment and you have a lot of piping and other systems associated with that equipment. And those all need to be supported and seismically braced.
Mm-hmm.
And so rather than allowing the structure to build over top of it, of that mechanical plant, and then bringing all of the equipment and piping and material into that space after the structure is erected above, we implemented a plan and worked with the general contractor to prefabricate large piping racks and support stands and land essentially a near complete mechanical plant, one level below grade before the structure went over top. And that was unique and innovative at the time. That's kind of our company standard now. Maximize prefabrication is kind of that's our standard MO now. But at the time, that was new.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a unique challenge, but we immediately kind of saw the benefit and the successes that you can have both on a labor saving standpoint, but then also from a safety standpoint. You can assemble all of that large piping and large steel and a lot of heavy items. You can assemble those and fabricate those in a controlled environment, and then bring them to site rather than exposing people to a myriad of potential risks associated with assembling those items on site.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great story. I'm curious. One of the challenges it seems like the trades are experiencing right now is recruiting young people to get involved with the industry. For any young person who may be watching this online right now, who's considering a career in the mechanical trades, what sort of advice would you give them?
That's an excellent question. So this is something that we've kind of talked about a number of times. You know, construction in itself isn't seen by the younger generations as kind of a sexy industry. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of just dated is kind of the stigma that we get. So that I think the biggest opportunity and the biggest I don't know if it's a selling point. I guess it kind of is the younger generation is much more versed with all the new technological advances that are coming out. They
Mm-hmm.
understand what those advances are and how to use them. And so there is a huge opportunity for people who understand all of that new technology to implement that new technology
Mm-hmm.
in construction, because construction is a fast evolving industry, and there is more and more technology being adopted in construction every day. But there's still a lot of room to implement even more and more technology and make things even more and more efficient. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what that younger generation can bring to the table, um, and kind of zhush up the construction industry, if you will. Um, but yeah, I think it's the integration of technology would be the I mean, that's the biggest potential, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that. You know, with your experience at UMC, you know, being there over a decade now, talk about some of the challenges that your company faces and how they've looked at innovative ways using technology to help tackle those issues that you're facing.
Sure. So the biggest challenge that I have seen, and it kind of always has been the biggest challenge, it's information. It's the
Hmm.
flow of information, right? It's um, you have the design. It's taking that design, coordinating it to in a 3D space that works, and then
Hmm.
getting that information to the field so they can assemble it properly and complete the install. Construction schedules are getting more and more compressed, and so that the need for that information is also kind of it's being accelerated along with it. So that's the biggest challenge is getting information uh, faster and getting
Hmm.
information in a usable format so that people can use it faster. Uh, so some of the innovations that we've used, I think, just kind of industry wide. There's obviously some 3D reality kind of capture services that are kind of new to us that we're trying
Hmm.
out. Um, but it's really the biggest innovation, or think something that we've found the biggest benefit from is giving all of the field access to the 3D model.
Hmm.
That's not new, but it's kind of what's happened in the last 5 to 10 years. The model isn't something just used by the engineers anymore. The model is used by the field. We give them kind of mobile tech stations, so they have their computer, their tablet, they have their internet connection, and they have access to the model, so they can see what the space needs to look like in a 3D environment. Um, they can analyze if there are any clashes that made it through coordination, and just have the provide a much higher level of detailed information to the field.
Hmm.
Um, and then another innovation that's kind of taken place outside of the field is related to the prefabrication. So
Hmm.
a lot of the automation of fabrication equipment um, to support field install, whether that's a CNC saw that is cutting pipes to length and then delivering those pre-cut lengths to the field for assembly, or if it's automated welders, etc. Kind of that automated prefabrication and assembly of components, so that when they make it to the field, they're not, the field teams aren't having to piece together a set, or they're not having to piece together individual pieces. Some pieces are pre-assembled, and then they're just kind of connecting those pre-assembled pieces in a predetermined
Hmm.
fashion.
Yeah, no, that's incredible stuff. So tell us a little bit about your journey with OpenSpace. You guys have been using us on a couple projects so far.
Mm-hmm.
So tell everyone a little bit about what your process was before you started using OpenSpace, and how this tool has been able to help you out.
Yeah. So we're using OpenSpace actively on two projects. Both are shell and core office buildings of similar nature. Um, and then, so I guess before we used OpenSpace, well, I guess let me take a step back. What we're using OpenSpace for is primarily reality capture and just a 3D documentation of site conditions or site progress on a biweekly basis or twice a week. And before OpenSpace, in order to collect that same information, it involves a field walk and a camera, and taking a whole host of photos of things that you think may be important later on down the road, and then cataloging those photos in a folder somewhere for later reference, whether that's photographing content in a wall before it gets covered up, in a shaft, whether it's site conditions on a given day, et cetera. What we are using OpenSpace for is essentially replacing all of that. So an individual will be walking the site using the 3D camera strapped to their hard hat, and produces the similar image like we're looking at here. And then that image is basically automatically cataloged in the OpenSpace software. And that's automates the data collection process. But the beauty of OpenSpace, from what we've seen thus far, is you don't necessarily know which piece of information, which pixel in that image is going to be important later on. OpenSpace captures all of it. And if there's any one thing that's important that you need to go back and look at, you have it because you have a 3D roadmap of the entire project. And so it's really just collecting a mass amount of data and then making that data available to the entire project team. We make this data available to our subcontractors and our entire project team. So then if people have a question, hey, what is the current condition of the site, or when did this particular item get installed, you can look back in time or look at the latest and greatest information, and you can see exactly what's going on at the site without having to drive to the site and take that walk visible to everybody who has access to the platform, which has been incredibly beneficial. Saves a lot of time and travel. Yeah, it's been a great addition. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I'm curious, for any folks who are watching who, may not have a background or experience in construction, and they're curious why documentation is important. I'm curious if there are any, stories in your career that you have where, a photo like this would have been helpful, or if you can explain to people, why it's important as a contractor to have this historical record of the site at hand.
Absolutely. So it all comes down to, like everything does, dollars, right? And so if you can document conditions and you can build a case in the event that there's any sort of disagreement, or there's potential for cost, either reimbursement or back charge, whoever has the most documentation and the best story usually wins. So having the 3D documentation time-stamped, it's not something that can be argued. It's pretty good documentation. And it does lend itself towards change order negotiation, any potential impacts due to sequencing, scheduling, makes it very easy to state your case. If you know there is an issue in the field and you need that to be documented, just go walk the job site, and OpenSpace captures all of that and provides you with all of that backup and information needed to support your case.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think on top of just having the photos, y'all have been able to try out some of our more advanced features as well. like the 3D model comparison. Tell us a little bit about how UMC has been using this BIM comparison tool, or any vision around how you're hoping to use it in the future.
Yeah. So this, I mean, like we're seeing on the screen here, you get a side-by-side view of the current condition of the job site and effectively what the complete install will look like here via the model on the right. To date, we've been using this kind of as a on-site clash detection or kind of post-coordination activities. So this example right here, like where we can see there's a sprinkler pipe and a domestic water line sharing a beam penetration, but the conduit rack that shares that beam penetration is not yet installed. We run into a number of scenarios where the field routing doesn't necessarily match the coordinated model, and it makes for an easy conversation in the field. Things can get a little bit contentious when you say you're in my spot, you need to move, and that conversation usually takes several days to run to ground, because you have to involve the BIM department, you have to involve the project manager, everyone just kind of, it takes a long time to have that conversation and determine who's in the correct location and if a move needs to take place. This visual representation here gives you that information right away, and you can have those conversations, never have to leave the field, and things are much easier to coordinate when you can see everything at your fingertips.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you are sharing this information as well with your other trade partners and your generals. I know your team's been using some field notes, or for example, to create PDF reports. Tell us, a little bit about that process and how that conversation goes with your clients.
Sorry, I lost a little bit of connection.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, no worries. We were talking a little bit about the reporting side of this as well, outside of just having access to the record of the data, how you're using this in conversations either internally or with any trade partners or clients.
Yeah, so the field notes are great for specific questions that aren't necessarily answered by just the 3D image capture. So we have been using these just snapshots to add to the drawing and then follow it up with a question. We typically use them for information gathering, whether that be an RFI that needs to be generated from this software and then sent off to the design team or architect for confirmation or clarification, or whether it be an internal question or communication. It's just, again, an easy way to extract information from the field and document it all in a clean format with the OpenSpace platform.
So for another contractor who's potentially watching this right now, who may be in a pretty similar role to you at another company, who may like what they see, but they need some help in understanding the process of how you got this tool adopted in-house, what sort of advice would you give them on how to get started?
Sure. So first of all, it's very easy to implement. It's not a heavy lift. So if the concern is that there's a lot of setup and processing in order to make this work, there's virtually no setup or processing required. All of that is done on the OpenSpace side. You give them a set of drawings, you give them a copy of your model, and everything is set up on the back end behind the scenes. Within a couple of days, you get access to this complete platform for your project, ready to go. In terms of benefits, the more data you have, the more you can do with that data. If you are missing data, you are missing out on some potential, and it's impossible to know what that is until after the fact. So hindsight is 20/20, but the big questions really are, how difficult is it to set up? How much time is it going to take for us to implement? And what are the benefits, right? So the implementation, incredibly easy. You can collect as much data as you want simply by walking the project as much as you want. The more you walk, the more data you collect, and the more action you can take with that data. And the main benefit is that data, right? You can't go back in time and try to collect data from the past. You can try to mine through emails and pictures you might have taken, data you might have collected, but it's very difficult to do retroactively. So collecting all that data proactively just grants you that opportunity. Should the need arise, you can go back and reference that data and catalog everything, and just have that on hand. There are some other benefits that we're kind of getting into here shortly with the AI, and kind of some other things that some of the AI is doing with the imagery, that are pretty exciting. But those are kind of upcoming benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can give a little preview of that as well. Enrique, they have a pilot of the production tracking product set up on this project here. So what Josh is referring to is, outside of everything with the imagery capture system that we have, we've been beginning to train our systems to recognize the images of what it's looking at. So in this case, we have the mechanical ductwork tracker set up on this project. And, Josh, if you could talk a little bit about how UMC's current production tracking process works, and, how data like this can potentially tie into that process.
Sure. So this is kind of the holy grail, trying to accurately calculate and then project progress and what the effort is to complete an install is going to be. That's kind of the holy grail. Our process to date kind of has been walking the project with a set of drawings or a tablet with drawings open on the tablet, kind of highlighting installed progress to date, and then taking that information back to the job site office and then analyzing that data, whether that be doing a takeoff of components installed or counting pounds of sheet metal, and then kind of collecting and calculating our current progress on the project, and in turn productivity using that data. It's a fairly manual process, and it does take some time. What is very exciting about OpenSpace is, like Alex said, they're training the AI to do all that for you. So if you go back to that track sheet, so the kind of that thick green line, that is the walk path of our personnel that walked the space. And then this is overlaid over an install drawing. And then you can see where it's highlighted the installed ductwork. So the AI has recognized that ductwork lines up with the correct ductwork on the drawing, and it's highlighted the drawing automatically based on what it's seeing out in the field. So this means no more manual markups of drawings, no more errors and misidentifications, anything of that nature. It's all done via the AI, and it is a massive time saver. And then you can then process that information much quicker and get real-time updates on field progress.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that you guys have been able to test this out so far and verified the accuracy of it. How does this tie all into your your billing process, financial forecasting, being able to understand what's been installed week over week?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, every month when you invoice the client, typically they come back and they ask, explain why you're invoicing for X dollar value this month. And so you always need to be able to explain what it is you're invoicing for, and prove that it is valid, right? So this AI capture is a very easy way to do that, to show I can walk you through the space in person, or we can virtually walk through the space and we can show you exactly how much progress we have been making over the past weeks or in whatever billing period, and how much progress we are projected to make based on data collected to date. And it's very easy to justify invoices to the client using that data and showing that you have the data and you are paying attention to it and tracking it. Goes a long way to kind of telling that story. And then it also helps the client feel more connected to the project. They know where you're at. They can see the data, and just everything's there on display.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Josh, I really appreciate your time today. Telling a little bit about your story and your background and how you've been able to use OpenSpace. UMC has been great partners with us, and not only on the capture side, but now the production tracking side as well. So we really appreciate your partnership, and thanks again for taking the time to speak with Enrique and I.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.